Kate, is it?
My question is also similar in nature, about sort of physical body things, because I've just found, like, I'm sort of a bit disconnected from this at the moment emotionally, but I found, like, in the last sort of several months since I've been on this path, that my eyes are crying, and it's quite embarrassing because I'll be, like, with people, you know, and then I'm dabbing my eyes, and it's sort of, crying, and my nose also runs, like it always has most of my life, really.
Yep.
Oh, and I did ask, I mentioned this to Tris, and he said it was because of wanting to cry, and
the same thing happens to me.
Sometimes I heard about your four hankies.
And sometimes I bend over the sink and all of a sudden my nose starts dripping. And I go, oh yeah, a bit more sadness to do with.
Yeah, and I've got just terrible, like, problems with my right eye. Like, it's been sort of better and worse at different times of my life, and at the moment it's just terrible. I'm in quite a lot of, like, discomfort with it, and just, like, there's a lot of grief for me about the state of my physical body. Like, I sometimes just feel like it's useless, and I just want to abandon it. And I guess my question was about the crying, like, in the snot. Like, why is it happening to me? Because I guess I'm just not really seeing that happening to everyone on the Divine Love Path, that they're crying like a maniac. I mean, when they're not actually in their emotions.
Yeah.
Just any truth that you can share with me about the thing that I'm not currently aware of, like even experiencing the grief about my physical body. Is it just the affect emotion? Is it actually going to help me at all?
Want to start?
How are you doing, Kate, with some of the other emotions of judging yourself? Is that still slowing you down a bit?
Do you remember we spoke with you about that, judging yourself?
Yeah.
When we have sore eyes...
What's the judgment? Oh, that's what the problem is. That's what's causing the problems.
For me, I went through a period of really judging myself very harshly on this path, and I manifested incredible eye difficulties during that time.
Mary'd wake up with bloodshot eyes, with
itching, weeping,
pussy,
quite continually, scratchy, really yucky. And I worked through this emotion, and it was interesting, the right-left side thing as well. It was about judgment of myself in relation to men, judgment of myself in relation to women, just general judgment of myself. And I just recalled that last time we spoke about you judging yourself quite harshly and feeling like, I've got to be doing better at this, and
constantly.
So judging yourself isn't loving yourself.
It's hard to not do it. Like, that's my emotion, is the grief about.
So talk
how
to God
I'm
about
not
why you judge yourself so much.
Is it an emotion of self-deception? Yes, the judgment.
See how hard you are on yourself again.
I know. I was having this conversation with Trish the other day, and he's like, I can't. He's like, everything I said, he's like, see, you just assumed that you were bad again. You just assumed that you were wrong again, and I just don't even know really.
Do it automatically,
that I'm doing it. I just don't want to offend or hurt or do the wrong thing.
Yeah, and that is a lot of the underlying emotion under it, that you've been taught to be so in tune with other people's emotion that you get away from your own, and you feel that whenever anything goes wrong, it must be your fault. But let's look at the eye-based thing. If we look at it, it's judgment of self. If it's your right eye, then it's judgment of yourself in relation to the male. If it's your left, it's judgment of yourself in relation to the female generally. So if you have eye-based problems, and particularly right-based, you know that, whenever I'm with a man or near a man, I'm going to be judging myself as something wrong when I'm with the male. Now, whenever we judge ourselves, we're automatically out of harmony with loving ourselves. So there's an automatic sort of feeling in us that gets created that's out of harmony with love. The first thing to do is to say, all right, I'm out of harmony with love right now, of loving myself. I don't need to punish myself further about it. Right? I need to learn how to love myself in this situation. So when I judge myself, I'm not loving myself in the situation itself. So Mary had to work through a lot of things about why she treated herself so harshly. And that usually comes from quite harsh treatment from our childhood, even though we don't want to admit it, and usually our parents don't want to admit it either. When I say harsh treatment, very harsh shutdowns about us being to blame for our parents' feelings causes us to go into a lot of self-judgment.
And a lot of my self-punishment was because I was very sensitive as a child, and I learnt that if I do something that might upset, it might not necessarily even be wrong, but if it upsets someone else, and then I punish myself, then they'll know that I'm sorry. So I'll do it before anyone says anything to me. So it was like an automatic pattern of I'll just punish myself all the time. And
it's a way of avoiding pain from others.
Yeah.
To show that you're sorry, to go into that state, to show that you realise you've done the wrong thing, and
yeah.
In reality, most of the time you didn't do the wrong thing, and you're just trying to circumvent other people's violent, anger-based emotions. So whenever you have that going on, look at what your interaction is, or what the interaction was just past, and let yourself feel, all right, this is about me punishing myself again for somebody else's stuff. And I need to love myself through this rather than punishing myself, and pray to God about that. Yeah, talk to God about that. Every time you punish yourself, you're disagreeing with God.
I know, yeah.
You understand that?
Yes, I understand.
Every time I judge myself, I'm disagreeing with God, because God's actually saying to me, I love you. I love you. You don't need to punish yourself. All you need to do is feel the underlying emotion. That's all God ever says. And I'm going, I need to punish myself, I need to punish myself, I need to punish myself. And in doing that, I'm actually in disagreement with God's own emotion towards myself. Yeah. So we need to cease some behaviour. We need to notice ourselves doing it, see it as an addiction, and stop doing it. So every time you notice yourself punishing yourself, stop.
And
acknowledge.
Yep, that's what I had to do. I was in an emotion, fully in it, and I went, no, this is not even causal emotion.
And I'd say to Mary, stop. You're not feeling any causal emotion. You're just punishing yourself, and you're hooking into a whole group of spirits who want to punish you as well. There's plenty of spirits in the spirit world who would like to hook into your self-punishment and punish you some more, because that makes them feel nice and powerful and strong. So, all we're doing is hooking into all of that as well when we punish ourselves. If a person's with you, allow them to say to you, stop. Stop punishing yourself.
Do you feel that the emotion the grief that I'm going through at the moment is that? Like it's not a causal emotion?
We see a lot of our grief is actually results of us punishing ourselves. Do you understand? So when I punish myself, I'm being unloving towards my own self. I'm going to cry about that as well at some point, because of how unloving I'm being towards my own self. It's just the same if somebody else was unloving towards me. Like if I was unloving to you, you'd probably cry, right? If I was angry with you and punishing yourself and hit you, you'd probably cry, right?
Yeah.
So the truth is that while you're doing it to yourself, you're also probably going to cry about that too.
Is that why I'm crying a lot about feeling unloved by myself? Or okay.
It's just punishment of yourself.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I just don't know how to move into. I guess I can pray about it. Certainly, just keep praying.
Pray about loving yourself.
Yeah, and can I say, you're actually a really beautiful person.
Thanks, Mary.
Really stunningly beautiful, and to let that in to let what I just said to you in will trigger some causal emotion. It's what you resist quite a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
The love from other people.
You are far more wonderful than you at the moment believe yourself to be. Even now, right now.
Yeah, I think it's blocking a lot of my connection with God, because my view of myself is so sort of...
Can you just stop for a moment?
Yes.
You never even heard me say what I just said.
Okay. I have to go on the DVD.
You're so blocked to a loving statement being made about you.
I guess I saw it as something wrong. Something else that I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, that's right. You bring up
Yeah.
something else you do wrong. Let's just stop for a moment. A male just told you that you're a beautiful woman. Here. Not just here. Here. Just sit with that for a moment. Does that make sense? Let yourself feel that enter you. Just put the microphone up there. What did you say?
I can feel my mum's feelings about it entering her, I think.
Yeah. So just the process of me asking you to stop causes you to feel something. And myself and Mary want to both say to you the same thing, and that is that you're just such a beautiful person already. You don't need to be this hard on yourself. Now, there is some causal emotion in your childhood that causes you to be hard on yourself, but that's okay. You can deal with all of that if you can at least see that you're a wonderful person right now without even changing. You don't need to change to be a wonderful person. You're already that. We love you, Kate.
Yeah.
I just really want to progress.
I know, but you see, that's where your judgment starts. Like, you see, you basically what you're doing is you've got this internal comparison system happening. But I'm not as good as I could be. And Kate, nor am I. Right? I'm not as good as I could be either, you know? And probably most people in the room feel that not as good as they could be either, right? But if you keep saying, like you get to a new place and you're better than you were and you keep saying, oh, but I'm still not as good as I could be, right? That's not acknowledging the beautiful person you already are. And part of this process is coming to love yourself and acknowledge the beautiful person you already are. That now you're becoming more beautiful by the minute. Because you're very humble, you're a very open person, you're very willing to focus on your own emotion. You don't blame anyone else for your emotions. And that's a beautiful thing, that you don't blame everybody else for your emotions. But you blame yourself.
I take all of that load.
Exactly. And so you know, obviously, like there's a lot of areas where other people in the audience have all these different things to work through that you've already dealt with. But you're still blaming yourself all the time and punishing yourself all the time. And we've got to help you stop that. Right? And what we're noticing is a lot of the young ones on the path are in this place of just blaming and pushing and blaming and pushing. And
Do you feel it's to do with like the schooling system or something? Like it's very competitive and driven?
Very competitive now. You know, if you don't get exactly where you should be, you know, your grades and all that. But there's also often a competition with siblings that have happened in our childhood that it began with as well. I'm not as good as him here. Mum didn't or Dad didn't say I was better than him here. I could feel Mum or Dad loves this person more than me, and there's a feeling of competition there. And a lot of the younger ones on the path, on the journey, are actually in this deep competition with themselves that you can never win. Because you'll only ever be as good as you are right now at any moment. So, you know, in an hour's time you'd have dealt with another emotion and you'll be better than you are right now. But while you're saying, but I want to be perfect, I want to be perfect. And that comes from something in your childhood where, you know, you were told or felt that you had to be perfect. And you don't have to be perfect for God to love you. You just have to be real. Right? And you will feel God's love enter you as you are real. Right? And in the process of that, God's love will perfect you. So you're at the moment relying on yourself to perfect you. Do you see that? While you're so focused on your own punishment of yourself, you're basically telling yourself that it's all your fault you're not perfect. And you're not relying on God's love to perfect you. Does that make sense? If you just allow the process to happen a lot more naturally, you'll find that actually God's love will perfect you. And you won't have to struggle to become perfect. God's love will automatically create this perfect creature by you just allowing every event at the moment that it occurs. the self-punishment prevents that place. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything that you've recorded, Mary, that you could recommend to me to listen to about this?
There's the talk on emotions of self-deception. Have you listened to that? Yeah.
But
don't punish yourself about being because you're doing it again.
I just want to be able to move forward, because I guess I can just pray about it.
Yeah. And Kate, there is going to be a time when in your processing you will have to acknowledge that Mum and Dad weren't perfect, and there were times in your childhood where you felt let down or you felt unloved. And at the moment, there's a resistance to doing that. You're preferring to blame yourself for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You'd rather blame yourself than feel the hurt from Mum or Dad.
I'm not connected to that emotion at the moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
So pray about that as well.
Okay.
And that it's not a judgment of Mum and Dad to go through those emotions. I'm sure they're willing to acknowledge they weren't perfect either. So, yeah.
And can I make one other suggestion?
Yes.
Pray to God about understanding that God loves you.
Okay.
Just pray to God to understand that God loves you. Just pray along for God to show you how God loves you. And you'll find lots of law of attraction events demonstrating to you that God actually does love you. And if you allow, when I said, we love you, Kate, right, you just blocked that from me. You're just straight out of that, right?
Did I project it up?
Yeah, you get that one.
Yeah, you went, intellect. I'll talk about it.
Allow yourself to sit with that.
There's you've got to create a little chink to let the love in. And that's what I was saying. It's going to trigger the causal emotion that you're so desperately trying to get to.
Yeah.
Some of us have to just allow the love in, and that triggers a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Just open the heart to allow that love in, and allow every expression of love. A lot of people around you do express their love to you, but you often just shut it down because you're so self-judgmental. You're there saying, no, you can't love me because I'm not perfect yet. No, you can't love me because I'm not perfect yet. No, you can't do that. And you do it in a way that's just like somebody says they love you, and yeah, that went past there somewhere out there. It never hits you.
Slides off you.
You notice when you allowed it to hit you, what happened?
Oh, it's quite full on. I feel very emotional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to do. Allow God's love to hit you.
Oh, okay, yes.
And the love from people around you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys.